American public appears to have a hard time comprehending Trump's bizarre behavior over in Russia. A new Quinnipiac poll finds that a majority of Americans, 51%, that's a majority, say they believe that Russia has compromising information about the president. They've got something on him. Joining me right now is Phil Bump, national correspondent for the National Post, and Heidi Presblet, national political reporter for NBC News. Philip, I want to ask you about that poll. Sure. Also, I always like to look at the independent voter, and 55%, a bit more of them, also think that the president's somehow compromised, to put it lightly, by something that Putin has in his bag over there. What do you make of that as public opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm not terribly surprised by the results of that poll simply because so many Americans hold such a negative opinion of the president. One of the things that I think that jumped out at me about that question in particular was even about a fifth of Republicans think that perhaps the Russians have something incriminating on President Trump. And I think that part of the problem here, obviously, is the fact that we have so far been unable to explain why it is that President Trump behaved in the way that he did, exactly to your point. I mean, if you look, for example, at the fact that we don't know what happened during that conversation. If you look at Secretary of State Pompeo's explanation of how tough Trump has been on Russia, you just played that excerpt of him saying there was no distance between what the administration was doing and what the president was doing, but that's simply not true. We have reporting that suggests that on multiple occasions when the administration was taking a hard line on Russia, President Trump opposed it. He got irritated, according to reporting, once he learned how many Russian diplomats were being expelled from the country. He took a long time to implement sanctions. There are all these ways in which he has repeatedly demonstrated, he himself personally repeatedly demonstrated a weakness on Russia that remains unexplained and wasn't explained today by Pompeo.
Phil, to make your point today, I think I heard Pompeo, who it does impress me, and sometimes often more than the president impresses me, said today he agreed with the chairman of the committee, Corker, Bob Corker from Tennessee, the chair, a Republican, that they should be looking into tougher sanctions against Russia. I don't hear the president talking about tougher sanctions against Russia.
Yeah, I mean, the way the president describes how he's reacted to Russia, he is the toughest there's ever been for a variety of reasons, some of which are valid and some of which aren't. I mean, there was, for example, people may remember that the UN ambassador Nikki Haley made an announcement about some impending sanctions on Russia that were then scaled back. They ended up not happening because apparently President Trump didn't want to move forward with them. So there are all these ways in which what President Trump is doing is separate from what the administration is doing, and then he tries to take credit for it.
Well, the administration of Donald Trump has also been reluctant or unable to say with any clarity what the president discussed with Putin for 2 hours behind closed doors last week. Secretary Pompeo defended the president's apparent need for secrecy in a contentious back and forth with Democrat Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey.
Has the president told you what he and President Putin discussed in their 2-hour closed-door meeting in Helsinki?
Presidents have a prerogative to choose who's in meetings. Then the presidents are entitled to have private meetings. I'm telling you what U.S. policy is.
Did he tell Putin that I'll release or ultimately relax sanctions?
Senator, what you need to conduct your role, your appropriate role, I will provide you today. Senator, I understand the game that you're playing.
No, Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, I don't appreciate you characterizing my questions. My questions is to get to the truth. We don't know what the truth is.
Let's put Menendez aside in his manner of interrogating, but let's talk about this. The president hasn't apparently told his Secretary of State what went on for 2 hours in Helsinki. That's interesting.
Well, he says that he did. And yet, if that was one of the specific questions, one of the senators tried to get Pompeo on the record. Now, you're telling me you know everything, that you got a full debriefing from the president. He said yes. Good. And then he proceeded to ask him specific questions, including about sanctions, and Pompeo would not answer it. And one of the things that he did, in addition to saying we're not changing policy, was to continually go back to the president's statements about Russia. Well, here's when he made a strong statement, and here's when he said he believed the intelligence community. But for every single one of those statements, there's 10 more, calling it a witch hunt, calling it a hoax, and then standing beside Vladimir Putin and calling our own country foolish and denigrating U.S. intelligence agencies. So what he's actually doing when he says, I disagree with you, Senator Corker, is he's telling the American people that he disagrees with their own eyes. He disagrees with what all of us saw in Helsinki, and he disagrees with the fact that we all are adults and we see for ourselves the fact that the president's overwhelming tone and statements.
I know.
Look,
I know you're a straight reporter, but I think a straight reporter will notice, and I said this last week, if you watch anything about the body language, the way Putin came springing out onto that platform after his 2-hour meeting, he was in heaven. He jumped up onto that stage, and he just was, look at him. He's got a little swagger. He's waving his arms around. Look at him. He just loves this moment, whereas Obama, where the other guy looks like he's had a hard time, and then he gets up there with that little mischievous grin of his with his cheeks way up there. He looks like he's smirking.
He did have a grin. He did have a grin, and just the body language as well, not just at the press conference here.
I've got this guy by the shorts. I got this guy. I own this guy is the message a lot of people took, which is our polling. 55% of independent voters said, I think the guy's got something on that big guy to his right.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.